Hey everyone, it's Enigma Hood. This video is just going to be going over some gamepads that some gamers might be interested in getting for their PC. There are a lot of gamepad reviews on YouTube, but I didn't see too many about PC gamepads. So I'm just going to be going over some of my favorites and some of the worst ones I've ever used. And I've gotten quite a bit of gamepad for the PC experience, so I'm a little bit of an expert by this point. So let's go over the worst ones first. And well, that would be this one. This one is called the Microsoft Sidewinder Pro. It's a newer version of the Sidewinder family, but it's probably the worst gamepad I've ever used in my life. Now, on the surface, it looks quite good actually. It's attractive. It's very comfortable to hold. It has these handles. And I really like these trigger buttons. These click in really nice, and your finger fits in so well when you want to push the button here. And the face buttons are not bad either. You know, it's made out of hard plastic and they click in pretty nice. The thing that destroys the whole gamepad is this thing. This is the pseudo D-pad. And it's mushy and it's imprecise. I mean, it feels like somebody put a pillow where the D-pad is supposed to be, and they called it the D-pad. I think the original purpose was they wanted to combine a standard D-pad with an analog stick and say, hey, you know, we have the best solution. You don't need either of those. You can just use this. And by trying to do both, it succeeds at neither of them and just becomes completely useless. I don't know what this button does, but you know, the most important thing in a gamepad is the D-pad. If you're playing a 2D game, which I'm assuming is the point of why anybody would want to get a control pad for the PC. You want a good D-pad because you're going to be playing emulators and things like that, older games. So, don't get this one. Next one is one that I've had for a while, and as you can see, it's really dusty. And this one's the Nostromo by Belkid, or Belkin. And this one is, well, not so good either. At first it was okay. The face buttons were made out of hard plastic, so they're nice to push in. And at the time the D-pad was precise and, you know, accurate, but as you can see, it fell off. It was attached very poorly, and it just broke off, making the whole thing useless. The analog sticks work fine, but that's actually part of the problem. When you're trying to play emulators, 2D emulators, it actually detects the analog stick instead of the D-pad like it should. And as a result, you're going to be ending up using the analog stick for 2D games, which you don't want. You want to use the D-pad for that. So you need third-party software to get it to work properly with the D-pad, and that's a pain in the ass. It also has this goofy-looking handle thing at the bottom, which doesn't really do anything and makes the whole thing look really ugly. In fact, I'm not really a huge fan of the design. It looks really stupid. The shoulder buttons are okay. You know, it has the typical PlayStation 2 layout, you know, 4 buttons on top, 4 buttons over here, and 2 analog sticks in the D-pad, but you know, the D-pad's the killing part, so that makes it worthless if it's just going to have such shoddy construction material. Okay, next up is this thing. This thing I like a lot, and I use it to play 2D games, and it is excellent. It is very cheap. I think I got this for like, it's under $10 on Amazon.com, and that includes shipping. You have a D-pad which is, you know, shiny and smooth, and it feels pretty nice on your thumb. I like this D-pad. It's precise too, so you can play fighting games with it, and there's no problem at all. The face buttons I like a lot, hard plastic. Stern Select are made out of a hard plastic too, and the shoulder buttons are not so great. These are kind of mushy. You know, you can even hear it, right? These buttons are not bad. It's just these ones that aren't so great. But other than that, it's perfectly fine. It's USB, so it'll work, with the USB port, no problem. Oh, and that's the Logitech Precision. Next up is the Xbox 360 controller. This will work on your PC. You have to make sure you get the wired version. The wireless version will not work. But this one is a USB controller. It's USB port, so it'll work just fine. You have to make sure though that this, if you get this, you're using Windows XP. There are not too many people using older versions of Windows, but it will not work on Windows 98, and I know that because I tried and it did not work. However, this will work in Windows 98. Now, this is a fantastic controller. I love the way it looks. The layout is fantastic. The face buttons are hard plastic, which I like, and the analog stick is fantastic. What is not good, though, is this D-pad. This D-pad is the worst piece of shit I've ever used in my life. Sometimes you push left or down, and your character won't do anything. And the problem is because of this stupid rim around it. It keeps bumping into it, and that's preventing the circuit from completing when you push in a certain direction. Now, there are some homebrew techniques to improve it by sanding down the rim, but that's a pain in the ass. Why should you have to do that? I don't know what Microsoft was thinking when they designed this D-pad. It was just such a pain in the ass. Other than that, it would have been okay because it would have been more or less identical to the Xbox D-pad. It's not quite as precise as the PlayStation's D-pad, but it does feel, in my opinion, nicer because of the smoothness on it, and I like that. Other than that, triggers feel great, the bumpers feel great. The home button does nothing on the PC, though. This won't do anything. But, who cares, If you're going to be using this for N64 games, then you can't go wrong because you're going to be using the analog stick the whole time. But 2D games, use something else. Okay, so that leaves basically these two things. Now I have the PlayStation controller right here. This is the DualShock 2. However, this will not work on your PC without a suitable adapter, and that's what this is for. Now you can get this for under $10 on Amazon. It's like $4.99 actually, but the shipping will raise it up to about like $8 or $9, which is not bad. And as you can see, it takes two. You can plug in two controllers, and the thing is USB. And then you can use one of the greatest controllers ever created, the PlayStation 2 DualShock. And it will work, the D-pad will work. I've tested it out. The D-pad works just fine. Not unlike, this thing or this thing. Actually, I should mention, by the way, the D-pad won't work on most games. It actually will map directional controls to the analog stick. But for ZSNES, the emulator, the D-pad will work. And that's how I discovered that the D-pad actually sucks. So leave that for 3D games. Use this for 2D games. My only complaint about this is that these Start and Select buttons are made of like some kind of cheap rubber, which I'm not a huge fan of. And the face buttons aren't a hard plastic. They're kind of softer, and when you push them in, it clicks. It clicks, but it's not quite as hard as clicking this. This feels a little harder, and I like that. But other than that, those are just like really minor gripes about it. This is just the best controller you can probably get. But of course, the cost, this one will cost like around $8 or $9, and then this one will cost $20. Whereas you can just get this one for like under $10. So if you're looking for a cheap controller for the PC, get this one. If you want the best controller for the PC, get this one. If you want the best controller for 3D games, get this one. And avoid this one and this one. Well, I guess that's it. Hope that was informative. Thank you for watching.